This episode is brought to you by Nordstrom. Whether you're packing for a vacation or dressing for a wedding, Nordstrom has head-to-toe looks for wherever summer takes you. From swimwear and bold color to romantic florals and dresses that make an entrance, find the right style for every unforgettable moment. Shop new arrivals from brands you love like Farm Rio, Free People, Vince, Wait, and Stod. Plus free shipping and returns and styling help whenever you need it make it all so easy. Shop now in stores at Nordstrom.com or download the Nordstrom app.
Girl, winter is so last season. And now spring's got you looking at pictures of tank tops with hungry eyes. Your algorithm is feeding you cutoffs. You're thirsty for the sun on your shoulders. That perfect hang on the patio sundress. Those sandals you can wear all day and all night. And you've had enough of shopping from your couch. Done hoping it looks anything like the picture when you tear open that envelope? It's time for a little in-person spring treat. It's time for a trip to Ross. Work your magic.
At first, I didn't think it was real. I woke up to this blinding light, and I was transported to another place. Pluto TV! Then I heard a voice.
Come with me if you want to live.
There were thousands of movies and shows, and they were all free.
The truth is ours.
It's just so beautiful.
On Pluto TV, free streaming of Terminator 2, Fringe, Arrow, The 100, and The X-Files may cause excitement, loss of sleep, and sudden belief in extraterrestrials. No credit cards or alien encounters necessary. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
Hey, it's JJ Virgin, and welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, where I give you the latest cutting-edge intel to help you look, feel, and think better. Now, today's show is all about something that I've always thought is just such a scary topic. It's something that most likely it's touched you personally, since it's almost now 1 in 2 people will basically have this in their lifetime. I know this is what my dad died of lung cancer, so I think probably for all of us, cancer is something that we've had to deal with, either personally or within our family or close friends. So we are going to talk today about really kind of making this not scary. I have an amazing guest for today who has a hero's journey you're going to be blown away by, which makes her an incredible expert on this subject. And we'll really talk through what you need to do right now to make sure that this isn't an issue for you and those you love. So again, fantastic, because we are all about empowering you to be able to take personal responsibility for your health and know exactly what to do and how to take action best. So let me tell you a little bit about my friend, Dr. Leigh Erin Connealy, someone I've known now for a decade plus. She is just an amazing woman. She is a leader and has been for decades in the integrative medical field. That's where I met her over a decade ago. She's got the most beautiful clinics. I actually have filmed some of my reality show tapings in her clinics. They are just gorgeous. She's got 3 of them now: the Cancer Center for Healing, the Center for New Medicine, and the Addiction Center for Healing. And has the largest integrative medical clinic in North America. She's the author of Cancer Revolution, published this year, 2017. And really, she is doing so much for the treatment of cancer. And again, you're going to hear why she is uniquely positioned to be able to handle this so well. And you know, the biggest thing I would tell you, I've spent a lot of time over her clinics. They're just amazing healing centers. And she's got an incredible team of practitioners in there as well. Sees people from all over the world, has treated thousands of patients. So a little bit more about her. Her book is The Cancer Revolution. This is definitely one that you are going to want to have for your bookshelf, for your success shelf. And again, today's show is all about cancer and really kind of groundbreaking concepts around it. And my guest is Dr. Leigh Erin Connealy. All right, let's do it. Dr. Leigh Erin, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here with me today.
I'm glad to be here with you, JJ.
Well, and I'm super thrilled that you have this book out because, you know, I've known you now for like a decade? A long time.
Yes.
Yes. And this is information that needs to be out there big time, and just more and more and more so. So before we start to dive into what you do here and some of your ideas. What I'd love to talk about first is how you got started in working with cancer.
All right. Well, it actually started over 60 years ago. I was born in the 50s. And when my mother was pregnant, I was number 3 of 6 children. And my mother started bleeding during the pregnancy. And in the pregnancy at that time, they gave women a medication called DES, which stands for diethylstilbestrol. And that was a drug to prevent miscarriage in women. Well, then approximately 16 years later, my parents received a letter that that drug, DES, caused cancer and anatomical problems and hormonal problems and a whole slew in both male and female offspring. So I began going to MD Anderson, which is one of the largest cancer clinics in the world, where people come from all over the world, and started getting all kinds of pap smears and biopsies and vigilance of watching me for the next several years. And then, so my whole journey kind of started there. And then I did my master's in public health on DES. And then, of course, my whole life is I have to prevent cancer. And so, of course, I went to medical school. And then in training, I realized in working that, okay, we were just giving patients medications for chronic medical problems, but they didn't get better. And so I said, no, there's got to be a better way. So then I started researching all kinds of ways of take care of patients, whether it's herbs, whether it's hormone replacement, whether it's because I had a lot of hormonal problems because I only had a period once a year. So I'd be in this eternal PMS because, and I had all this bloating and everything because if you're in PMS, you need progesterone. So fortunately, I found progesterone very early, probably 35, 37 years ago, and it was a lifesaver because it would help me have regular menstrual cycles. So, and then even getting pregnant because I didn't have periods, just getting pregnant. I couldn't do that on my own. I actually had to have medical intervention to get pregnant. And fortunately, I did have 3 children, and but it was because of medical intervention to have children. But anyway, your mess becomes your message. And I know, JJ, you've been through some of your own things. We only, with burdens comes blessings, and out of misery comes a miracle. And so that's kind of been my life, but that's what makes me good at what I do because I lived it. I just didn't read it in a book and memorize it and then take a test and answer questions. I've lived it. And so it makes you an expert and CEO of your own body because no one else is interested in you like you. So you have to do the work. You got to do all the homework. You got to go research and you got to go find answers. And then you want to connect with people who've had similar issues because they can maybe help you along the way, hopefully. So that's kind of a Reader's Digest version of
I know. I remember the first time I heard the story and I'm like, oh my gosh, you just have to tell this story. And it is amazing because you are a unicorn in what you've gone through and then all the education and then being able to apply it now to thousands of people. It's fantastic. So I look at someone who's probably in fear. Maybe they don't even, I know a lot of people don't even want to consider it. My dad had lung cancer and it went on for years before he went to see the doctor. We're all like, Dad, you're coughing every day. And I know early prevention's super important. Where should people start? And is this something in terms of early prevention, what things should we be monitoring no matter what? And how do you look for things?
Well, first of all, let's get straight that people don't monitor themselves, JJ. Okay. You may, because you are a certain age and your personal interest is health, and health, but we don't teach health, right? Unless you're a mother who has a personal interest in health. We don't esteem health. Illness is the norm now. And so people do not go to the doctor. They don't regularly monitor themselves. Doctors are not particularly interested in things because they look at you and they go, oh, you look good. You must be good. Do you have any complaints? Because you don't have to have a complaint to have a major illness.
Right.
And
Well, and
cancer,
also isn't the system set up at this point where it doesn't really want you to monitor, looks at risk reward and goes, nah, right?
Right, exactly. And so we don't have and let's face it, our system is not based upon prevention. And I tell people the cure for cancer is prevention, and I am the living proof, okay? Because the odds are completely against me. And so but because I have continually been interested in monitoring and learning everything I possibly can, and I had amazing mentors who taught me things, that's what I'm doing today. But that is my passion, to awaken and inspire and educate people on what they really, really need to know. Because let's face it, okay, cancer is 1 in 2 men and 41% of females. No news station, no magazine, no major newspaper talks about the bioterrorism that is taking place today. How can that be? How? That is absurd, that we are not caring for humanity and educating on them on what is going on. And this is where I kind of want to get on the mountaintop, and I know you're the same way. You want to get on the mountaintop and say, wait, do you realize what sugar does to you? Do you realize that you can prevent cancer? Do you realize there's simple little tools to do this? But we're living in a sea of lies, unfortunately. And so we've got to, that's why we're doing this podcast, to educate and empower people to live their life and to doctor themselves.
Right. And we have very proactive people on here. I mean, that's the big message I put out to everybody is, and so, you're going to only attract people who want to take personal responsibility, who want to know what they should be doing and not, put that over to their every other year doctor visit. So what should they do? If I want to be proactive about this, and I think that we all should live as if, we're at risk for cancer and diabetes and heart disease, because we are, right? So what should they be looking for?
Well, a couple of things. A couple of things that you can do and you can ask your doctor to do. Well, first of all, you got to pay attention to how your body is talking to you, okay? How do you feel every day? Do you think well? Do you decide, are you trying to be happy? Like when I say trying, because sometimes we have disruption in our life and it's tough to be happy. But we have to decide that we're going to wake up and be happy today, because that's just what you have to do. Now, and then you got to sleep, and then you got to drink water. You got to drink purified water. You got to eat foods that nourish and strengthen and heal your body. You have to move your body. And in this day and time, you must detox. So those things, and if you can't do those things, those things that I just mentioned, then something is not right. Okay, like for example, if you're not sleeping the approximate 8 hours, now there are a few people who live on 4 hours a night. That is unusual. They're a special breed. That's a very, very, very small percent of the population. But most people need 8 to 9 hours of sleep, depending upon age and how they live their life. But most people need a good night's sleep. But I would say 50% of the population doesn't sleep. And that's 20-year-olds, 80-year-olds. They all seem to have a problem. So now most people, unfortunately, do not know how to eat. They think what they're eating is good. They need to be educated about the science of food. And once they are, they realize that. But if you were to go to the doctor, I would ask them to do a couple of blood tests. Most doctors do a CBC, which shows if you're anemic or you have an infection. Then they do a chemistry panel, which looks at their electrolytes, kidney, and liver. And then there's one very, very important test. It's called the CRP. That stands for C-reactive protein. And even very slight elevation, so that would be over 1, is a sign that something is imbalanced in your body. And I tell people the CRP is like the red light on the dashboard. You don't put duct tape on it and think it's going to go away. You've got to get to the why, where, when, and how do you have inflammation, because inflammation is the precursor to all diseases, whether it's heart disease, diabetes, cancer. And you've got to be willing to partner with a doctor who's going to help you figure this out. Then the hemoglobin A1C. The hemoglobin A1C is a reflection of your blood sugar over 90 days. If your sugar's high, you're high risk for all illnesses, heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, infections, because your body, the sugar, the high sugar, paralyzes the cells. And so your immune system doesn't work, your liver doesn't work, your kidney doesn't work, your heart, nothing, brain, nothing works. Okay. So people don't realize that just those two tests. Now, thyroid is important because the thyroid is the battery to your body, and it drives the metabolic activity of every single cell in your body. And then the other hormone, and these are all routine blood tests, this is not anything esoteric, is the DHEA sulfate. The DHEA sulfate is the main hormone from your adrenal glands. Most people with cancer have low adrenal glands. Most people who are stressed have low adrenal glands. Well, what is the adrenal gland? The adrenal gland is your stress, immune, and longevity gland. So those four tests need to be in optimal range. But more importantly, you have to find and connect with a doctor who understands that. So because medicine has changed a lot in the last 30 years. Just like your cell phone, when the first cell phone came out, it was this big box, cost $5,000 or whatever. And now it's this little tiny thing that does a jillion functions. Well, guess what? Medicine has also changed, but doctors have to learn and constantly go to conferences and learn all this new information. And what's at a conference will become the standard of care 10 to 15 years. But now you're sick today. You can't wait 10 or 15 years until it becomes the standard of care.
It's been interesting, with Grant, because he's had all sorts of things go off when, from the brain injury. And I went into his doctor, and his thyroid antibodies were elevated. His thyroid is elevated. His hemoglobin A1C was elevated, plus his insulin. He was HSCRP elevated. But the doctor says, oh, no, they're all in normal. I'm like, no. So this is the other key thing, is you've really got to find a doctor who's looking for optimal and watching the trends and seeing when things are shifting. And so that means you're going to have to do this, right? I mean, it's
right. Exactly. You're going to have to know, and you're going to have to study. I mean, even Time and Newsweek, I don't know, it's probably 8 to 10 years ago, had on the cover about a picture of inflammation. Okay. So it is common knowledge that this is a critical factor. But like you said, doctors don't realize, they don't see the studies of like what a high hemoglobin A1C does on a microscopic level to your cells. And if you're not teaching your patients, how are they going to know? So I'm so big into educating and teaching the patients how to be their own doctor.
Yeah, so key, so key. I just had Bill Davis on, and that was his big message with his next, his new book out, was doing that, was just being your own doctor. So to have doctors, medical doctors saying this is huge. Now, what would be some symptoms that people should be looking for, kind of watching with themselves beyond, having lab tests? What are kind of some day-to-day things that might show up that would be an indicator that they need to go to the doc?
Right. Well, one big thing that I think is chronic fatigue. And a lot of people, as you know, have chronic fatigue, and they call it a syndrome now. But fatigue is just a symptom that your body, something's not right. And that could be, I tell people, fatigue is 5 different things. If you don't sleep, hormones, infection, nutrition, and toxicity, which all those imbalances lead to cancer. Then some other things like a chronic cough. For example, you were talking about your dad. He had a cough and he didn't go to the doctor. A cough is not a normal symptom. If you have brain fog or like you're, fuzzy thinking. I was at a conference, a private medical meeting in Greece, and one of the oncologists from Vienna was saying, don't you notice that these patients cognitively get so much better because let's face it, they're toxic. They have chronic infections. You know what it's like with the flu. You don't have good cognitive ability when you have the flu. Well, just think when your body is overburdened with infections and parasites and all kinds of things, your cognitive status is changed. Then let's say you may have changes in your hair. If your hair is coarse and thin and graying, that means your body is aging at a much rapid pace. One very important sign that is a symptom for me is hernias. hernia is a breakdown of the muscle. So the body is in a catabolic state when it's in cancer. So it steals muscles from major muscle areas and basically creates a weakening. And then if you have an odor to your body, okay, body odor is a sign that something's not right. So, and people know that about themselves, whether it's under the arm, whether it's in other body parts, it's not a good sign. And then if you have any lumps of swelling or any kind of bleeding that is, doesn't go away rather quickly, then you know that there is something. And you live with your body. People palpate their body every single day. You're the one that lives with themselves every day. You need to be paying attention to this stuff because today's world is drastically different than it was 30 years ago. We are in an emergency crisis with illness today. All diseases are increasing, and all you have to do is look at our children. Our children, less than 20, are plagued with illness. One of the biggest things is autism. Autism, everybody has a different number, but sometimes I see here it's 1 in 50, 1 in 30, 1 in 20, but it's a lot, okay? It's a lot. And our children should not come out like that, and they shouldn't develop autism. And because, first of all, we have the understanding of what's going on, but we're doing something, we're living in something, we're doing something wrong. If our children are suffering from depression and ADD and obesity and diabetes and autism and all kinds of learning disabilities, there's something wrong in the universe. They're the canaries in the mine that are giving us the message, just like Dr. Rachel, who wrote the book, Rachel Carson, who wrote the book Silent Spring in 1970. She told us in Nature that all of these things were changing. Hermaphrodites, there were sexual changes happening in animals and creatures. And here we are. We got that information and we did nothing about it. We have the information now and we're not doing anything about it. They talk about healthcare plan. The healthcare plan will not be so burdened if everybody reduced their sugar content by 50% and started moving 30 minutes a day. That is simple. It doesn't cost anything. But nobody up there is saying we've got to restore health to humanity.
Now, I know you have, because it's like I have another, 2-3 hours of questions for you, which obviously we're like, running out of time. But, and we talked about this offline. This is like a massive topic. However, the things that you're pointing out, which I find the most exciting, are really basic and simple. And just people aren't thinking about. And I know all of this is in your book, Cancer Revolution. And I also know that one of the things that you have, that you use in your clinic that you're going to give everyone today, I'm really, this is so cool that you're going to give everyone your 14-day plan. Walk us through what that is and what they can grab when they go to jjvirgin.com/, I'm just going to make it Revo for Cancer Revolution. That's the name of your book. So REVO. So jjvirgin.com/REVO. Walk us through what that plan is quickly that they'll be able to grab for free from you. And thank you for that.
Well, okay. So it's a 14-day plan on how to create a food plan using recipes, using amino acids, because a lot, like I said before, a lot of the patients have their muscle mass. They have sarcopenia and the muscle mass destruction. So a lot of times we have to use the amino acids to rebuild the body. And how to measure your ketones and calculate food portions for a ketogenic and or low carb food plan. Because we know now that a ketogenic, whether it's vegetarian or regular plan, that people who eat animal proteins, because we have different things for different people depending upon all kinds of variables, and people can develop a plan. But we know that the ketogenic, which has been around about 70 years, it is a way of eating for epilepsy, cancer, diabetes, and anti-aging. So, and then to understand the anti-cancer superfoods that you should incorporate on a daily basis.
Awesome. So that's a great place for people to get started. So again, big takeaway here is take health into your own hands. That's a message we are always talking about on this podcast. Make sure you get the book Cancer Revolution because you lay it all out there. And this is not something that you can bury in your head in the sand with. I had a girlfriend who had this crazy mole on her neck. And we used to we all were like, have you checked that? Have you checked that? And she just would blow us off. Of course, it had been there for years by the time it was checked and had become a lot bigger problem than it should have been. So these are not things to ignore. And this is really about getting in touch with your body so that when you have these changes, you know right away and you can do something about it. And you're proof positive that you can be a high-risk person and this can be a non-issue if you do the right things in your life. So thank you so much for that. And I want to throw one little curveball at you before I let you off the recording here. And that's this one. What do you think the one thing you do every day, was the one thing you do every day that you feel makes the biggest difference in your life?
I would say overall, and I tell every single patient this, because they'll say, well, Dr. Connealy, why didn't this work and why didn't that work? And what I see in 31 years of working is that the patients who decide to be happy and that they get rid of their emotional complex, they will shine and heal themselves and be amazing.
I'm just working with someone who's a happiness expert, and that's their biggest thing is like working through that stuff and then having really connected relationships is like the biggest difference in someone's health. So thank you for that one. It is such a key component. And we all tend to think of like diet and sleep and,
Right. But really it's not. It's you become what you think about most of the time.
All righty. Thank you for that. And thank you again for that awesome gift for everybody listening. Again, go to jjvirgin.com/REVO. Now, after the break, I'm going to be answering a listener's questions, so stay with me.
You already know starting your day off with the right breakfast sets the metabolic tone for your day. And now the perfect and easiest way to do this is with JJ Virgin's all-in-one Paleo-Inspired protein shake. This convenient, nutrient-rich protein-enhanced meal comes in 2 delicious flavors, vanilla and chocolate, and is a huge time saver, ensuring your body uses stored fat as fuel, creates steady, sustained energy, and cuts your hunger and sugar cravings. Visit jjvirgin.com/products today and experience the easy way to lose more weight and keep it off. Visit jjvirgin.com/products and start your day with a healthy shake.
Welcome back. This is the time where I answer a listener's question. And today's question comes from Rob in Fort Worth. And he says, JJ, I always have a little sugar every morning in my coffee. And all right, I might have a little dessert at night. But honestly, it's not very much. My weight is fine. Is it really that big of a deal? So again, as you know, if you've been a listener, that I like to match the questions with the topics at hand. And you heard Dr. Leigh Erin really rail against sugar, and rightly so, because sugar feeds cancer cells. Sugar is super aging. Sugar is pro-inflammatory, and your weight may be fine, but that does not mean that you're healthy. First of all, we always need to know what your weight is made up of, but what we really want to look at is how's your blood sugar? What's going on with your hemoglobin A1C, which is really a marker of what's going on with your blood sugar over time, not in the moment, and what's going on with your inflammation. Because if you're eating sugar in your diet, now this is all going to depend too on how glucose tolerant you are, what your exercise levels are like, what your insulin sensitivity is like, but this is a toxic substance. And if you knew that, like, you wouldn't sit down and go, I'm just going to have a little bit of that poison in my coffee every day. And that's what we really have to think about this as. Sugar is our number one recreational drug of choice. It is at the forefront of all the major diseases because inflammation, like Dr. Leigh Erin said, is at the root of all major diseases, and sugar creates inflammation. There's nothing good here about it. So the big things that you want to look at are the things that you do every single day. It's not that once in a while, it's not your birthday cake once a year that's creating the problem. It's the sugar in your coffee. It's the dessert at night. Those are the issues, and that's what we want to fix. So sugar in your coffee. Hello, I have a product called Virgin Sprinkles. Shameless plug, but I made it to solve this problem. And it's erythritol, stevia, and glycine. So it's a great solution. Other things you can use monk fruit. You can use xylitol. You can use erythritol. You can use vanilla extract. You can use cinnamon. So you got to get the sugar out of that coffee. Next thing is, like, there's other options for dessert. I mean, So Delicious Dairy Free has an amazing monk fruit sweetened ice cream that you can do. You can do the Lily's stevia sweetened dark chocolate. So there are other options there, but the best option of all is to use the Sugar Impact Diet and get you your sweet tooth retrained, so you appreciate the natural sweetness of things and that you actually prefer savory and spicy rather than sweet. And it can be done. That's what that whole book is about. So that's my big takeaway for you for that. Now, this is the gratitude part of the show. And this is where I read a listener's question and tell you, and make a big fuss over it because it's a big thing to us. There's nothing we love better than getting these amazing endorsements from people. And, they make a big difference out there because then other people go, oh, I should listen to this. So big thanks today from, B12R34I56E. So big thanks to you. And while you're writing these too, hey, throw your name in there if you want. And it says, great for beginners, changing lifestyle, 5 stars. I decided to listen to a podcast from JJ featuring a special guest, and it was amazing. Her intelligence and passion for better living is so present in her podcast. Listening to just one episode, I received some knowledgeable tips that I will implement in my life as I'm starting in my new lifestyle journey. I recommend this show for anyone trying to change their life, meaning their life diet, meaning spiritual, physical, health, and appearance, and financial. When the mind, body, and soul is aligned, financial, economic achievement can become more attainable. Hey, that's awesome, by the way. I love that life diet. That's super cool. Thanks, JJ. That was a little extra for me, as you could tell in there. I got excited. So thank you, B12R34I56E from the USA. I super appreciate that. Now, if you'd like to submit a question, just head over to my Facebook page at JJ Virgin Official or go to my jj.virgin over on Instagram. Leave us a note. And again, we love those. We are always looking for cool questions to put into the podcast and reviews. Jump on iTunes and leave a review. Would love to showcase you, and I super appreciate that. And again, you heard the theme of today's, the theme of every show is it's your body, and it's really up to you to take personal responsibility for your health. And, this is it. You got one, right? So, and if you are listening to this and you've got kids, you've got a spouse, chances are you're the role model for them. So if you're being a little lazy about doing it for yourself, then do it for them, because everybody benefits, including you. All right. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, make it a great week. Bye-bye.